This is the Keiko atomic spinner. This is the beautiful Keiko version of this toy, but they've gone by other names, including the Tippe top or the flip over top. And the reason why is because when you give them a good spin, they flip over. Why do they flip over? I can sort of understand how it gets to there, because they're designed to be slightly top heavy. But how they get from there to there, but relative to itself, it's actually reversed its direction. Why do they flip over? Beats me. Hello curious people, welcome to our first Brain Spice video. My name is Colin and this is my store. I'm more interested in sharing things that fascinate me, things that invoke curiosity and wonder, than pretending to be another authority on how things work. The whole idea behind Brain Spice is to encourage exploration and asking your own questions and learning on your own terms, drawing from your direct experience or your lines of thought, or from information sources that you choose and you trust. That way you become the arbiter of your own truth. 9 years ago I used to sell levitating devices called levitrons, and unfortunately the supply was discontinued, and I've been missing them from the store because they were really magical. The way that these things levitate something is physics defying. And now finally we've got a supply of these beautiful quality gadgets again. And this is the levitating globe. So I'll just switch this on and see if I can demonstrate it. So these work through an electromagnetic field. So there's a mixture of permanent magnets and electromagnets in the base here, and a permanent magnet in the globe. So the permanent magnets are doing most of the work, but the electromagnets are doing the stabilization. And that's the really clever part of these. You couldn't achieve this just with permanent magnets. Permanent magnets will always flip or find a way to stabilize themselves without remaining floating. With the exception of the spinning top levitron, which is hopefully something that I'll be able to demonstrate for you in a future video. I haven't been able to stock those for quite some years. Unfortunately, they were discontinued along with the original electromagnetic devices. But who knows, maybe one day somebody will start to produce them again. Anyway, so these take a little practice. It's a bit like trying to find an invisible egg cup. Somewhere in the center there. And it takes a little practice to find it. And it is actually good fun too, this part of it. Except that today it's eluding me. There we go. So that's floating about 10 millimeters off the base there. Hopefully you can see that. And if you get these globes rotating like that, they'll just keep rotating, which is a really nice feature, and I've got no idea how they managed to achieve that. But that'll just keep rotating gently. It's got a bit of a wobble at the moment, but it'll settle down. Oops. So we have two sizes of the globes. We've got this one, and we've got a larger globe which floats above a different base. The base is actually designed to look like, very realistically, like a book. So this large globe is just hovering above a book, which is a really nice effect. But they both essentially operate the same way. So now I also want to demonstrate another levitating device from the same makers, HCNT. All of these devices are by HCNT. They've been making these devices for at least 2 decades, and I do believe that they were the makers of the original Levitrons that I used to sell back in 2014, 2015. But this one is just so refreshing. This is more of a tabletop lamp or bedside lamp with a unique feature, and that is the levitating. Oh, hang on, is this switched on? Yes. No. The levitating steel ball. So if we can just find... This one growls at you if you get the levitation slightly wrong. There we go. So once again, the ball is floating about 10 millimeters above the base there. Hopefully you can see that. And the ball acts as the switch. So you can switch between 3 brightnesses or off just by pressing down that levitating ball. And I think that's a really elegant and quite magical effect. So that's the Circlo. And all 3 of these levitating devices are in stock at the moment. Hopefully I'll be able to expand that range too as the year progresses. Look, finally, I just want to mention one of our favourite games ever, and that's 6 Nimmt by Wolfgang Kramer. I think this game was invented in the 90s. I'm not exactly sure about that. I do know, however, that this game is seriously underrated. This is the game that pretends that it is, but this is a far better game than so to my mind it should have had the same popularity over the years. Essentially this is a game where you're trying to dodge points. The lowest score at the end of the game wins, which is a really nice sort of twist. It's a game for 2 to 10 players, and it plays really well in that range too. We've had some great 2-player games, and I've played with at least 8 people, and the game works brilliantly. So it's all embracing. Kids, adults, grandparents, everybody enjoys this, and it's a great lesson actually in what is fun in a game. So what this game gets right is the balance of agency and luck. So you can play this game well, and it will matter. But at the same time, there are going to be times when the sheer luck of the cards is going to help anybody to have a good round. So it's a game where you can dodge and weave your way through a round and not pick up any points, which is the idea of the game. And when you get to the end of the round, it makes you feel so good. It makes you feel like a wizard. And then the next round you might seriously get bitten by the game, and it's funny. You know, it's something that everybody can appreciate, because everybody will have had those rounds. When I say a round, you get dealt 10 cards each round, and everybody's playing simultaneously a card from their hand and putting it down on the table, and you're trying to avoid having to put it down at the end of a row of 5 cards. So here is a pretend game set up for 2 players. Now each card is individually numbered, the large number in the centre there and also on the corners. So each has a unique number and also a point value. So that's the little bullheads that are on the top and bottom of each card. So these 2 cards are 1 point. This one is 5 points. As you say, that's a card that you want to avoid if you possibly can. And the other one is 5 points as well. So you've got 10 cards in your hand, and everybody's choosing a card and revealing it simultaneously. In this case, let's say we've got a 32 and an 86 as the cards that have been played by the 2 players. So once they've been revealed, we choose the lowest card first, and we go up in increasing order. Now, each card has to go on one of the 4 rows next to the number that is below it but closest to it. So you can see there that 22 is below it, 77 is too high, so it can't go next to the 77. 22 maybe, but 27 is closer, so the 32 goes next to the 27. And then 86, well, that's going to be closest to not 72, 77. So now we've got 2 rows that have 2 cards in them and 2 more with only 1 card. So now we've played 2 more cards, and one player has played a 12. Now it cannot go next to any of these 4 rows because it's lower than any of the values. So the rule is that if you play a card that cannot sit next to any of the rows, it must replace a row. And preferably, because you're going to be accumulating points that you don't want, you want to replace a row that is the lowest value. So that's going to be that one with only 1 point, 1 card that's worth 1 point. If you replace the other rows, you're going to get more points. So that goes into your score pile, and that will become part of your score at the end of the game. Remembering that you want the lowest score possible to win. So the 39 now gets played next to the 32, because that is the closest value lower than it. So let's say now that the game's progressed a bit and we've got a row with 5 cards on it. Normally all 4 rows would have grown at least to some degree, but let's just say that this is how it's worked out. And so the person who plays the 6th card on a row must pick up the other 5 cards. And that's something you want to avoid if you possibly can. But let's say that the hands are actually getting pretty low and players are now being forced to play cards they wish they had got rid of earlier. So we've got 2 cards being played here, and when the players reveal them simultaneously, we've got a 49 and a 55. Right, so the 49 gets placed first, and that must go next to the 48. That would have to be the closest card to it, which means that you have to pick up those 5 cards and they count against you at the end of the game. They're part of your score. So unfortunate, but that's what happens if you play the 6th card in a row. And then 55 is now going to be safe. It's going to go next to the 49. So that player has been effectively saved from picking up a row by luck or good play, who knows. And that's essentially the game. Once you've played all 10 cards in your hand, you discard the cards that are remaining on the table, you deal out 10 cards each and set up 4 new cards for 4 new rows. So it's very straightforward rules. You can learn this game as you play, and that's great. So, you know, it's easy to teach because you just start a round and you just talk people through the first round, and by the end of that round people are starting to get it and starting to realise that it's a fun game, and then you're hooked. So 6 Nimmt, it's a wonderful game. It's highly recommended by us. We've sold many copies of this and we've never had a bad feedback from any customer, and this game has got us over the line on New Year's Eve when we were heading for bed at 9 p.m. Just because it's a fun game that helps the time to pass when you need it to. So 6 Nimmt, everybody, great game. And that's really all we've got for our first video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I have. It's been a blast. I hope we can do many of these, but I appreciate that our first video is probably not as polished as others you might have watched today, but we'll get better at this, and until then, thanks and see you next time.